Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back. Where we left off, Leroy was about to get a bath. Most dogs don't like baths, but Leroy doesn't seem like most dogs. Let's see how he does. Chapter 12. The second Florida slammed the front door, I scrambled out of bed. Leroy, today we're on a mission to beautify you, but I promise I won't make you wear any cupcake dresses. Leroy thumped his stumpy tail. I knew I'd have no trouble finding shampoo in this house. I headed straight for the refrigerator. That's right, the refrigerator. There was barely a speck of food in there because it was filled to the brim with beauty products Florida had bought from the shopping shows. Inside there were shampoos to make hair shinier, thicker, curlier, and straighter. I pulled out a bottle of triple plump and thick Miracle Shine because on the bottle it said that it smelled of vanilla and mint. Vanilla and mint would be a huge improvement over stinky feet. Leroy followed me out to the backyard. The scorching sun had already dried the ground after last night's rain. Big, puffy picture clouds crept across the wide blue sky, and over at the neighbor lady's house, the curtains were pulled shut. I turned on the hose and drenched Leroy from head to tail. I dumped the entire bottle of shampoo on his back and worked it through his fur into big frothy bubbles until he looked like he was covered in whipped cream. The second he was rinsed off, he shook and sprayed me all over. I was almost as sopping wet as he was, but I didn't mind. Now we both smelled like vanilla and mint. When he was dry, Leroy looked like a different dog. The triple plump and thick Miracle Shine shampoo made his fur as sparkly as starlight. It puffed him up as big as porcupine, except that he felt super soft. In fact, after the bath, Leroy looked cute. I decided to sketch a picture of him and ran inside to get my drawing supplies. I told him to sit, and he remained still as a statue, not even scratching a single flea. As I was putting the finishing touches on my Leroy sketch, the crazy lady's screen door creaked open. She carried a big yellow plastic basket of wet laundry. Well, somebody looks like a brand new dog, she said as she pulled clothespins from her fanny pack and clipped a row of ratty sweaters, sweatpants, giant bras, and panties on the line. Is that your doing, Madison? I sure wish I knew how she knew my name. I concentrated on my drawing pad in my lap, pretending I hadn't heard her. But from the corner of my eye, I saw that she was staring straight at me. My heart pounded. Ka-thump, ka-thump, ka-thump. I was trapped. Sunshine! Our back door opened wide, and there was Grandpa Jack. I sailed into his arms so fast that my pencils and sketchbook went spinning into the dust. Grandpa! He scooped me up and hugged me close. With Leroy at his heels, Grandpa carried me inside. We sank into the big corduroy easy chair in the corner of the living room with me on his lap. I told Leroy to sit, and he curled up at our feet. Looks like you made yourself a friend, Grandpa said, patting Leroy on the head. I snuggled into Grandpa's neck, and he smelled just like my mom always said he did. The same way he smelled on that horrible day back in February when he and Florida came to Violet's house. Spicy aftershave and fresh dirt. My grandpa was the mirror image of a bigger-than-life cowboy, right down to his bushy black mustache and soiled 10-gallon hat. I sure wish Grandpa lived here with Florida instead of in a trailer 2 hours away near the White Sands Missile Range. That's where he worked, fixing trucks. Life sure is tough sometimes, isn't it, Sunshine? Grandpa said. Yeah. I really didn't want to talk about what had happened with my mom, even with Grandpa. I didn't want my eyes to fill up like swimming pools. I want to show you something. Grandpa Jack pulled out his wallet. Inside was a picture of my mom with my grandpa. She looked about 15. She wore a red bandana, a pair of torn jeans, and a Bart Simpson t-shirt. Around her neck was a silver chain with a red charm. It was too tiny to make out. Grandpa wiped away a tear with the back of his hand. A sad smile curled up his lips. See, my little girl's still with me every day. We contemplated the picture in silence. I wished a picture was enough for me, but it never would be. My mom wasn't with me every day. She was gone. Sometimes the only way I could make sense of it all was to pretend. Lately, I imagined she was away on an extended vacation, someplace exotic, and she'd be picking me up any day. Dumb, I know. Grandpa tucked away the photo. He pulled out a tangle of keys. Well, sunshine, today your old Grandpa Jack is on a mission. Chapter 13. I thought missions were Florida's thing, I said to Grandpa. Originally they were, so I had to come up with my own mission to thwart some of her missions. Going against my grandmother? That sounded like mission impossible to me. Our mission this morning, sunshine, is to load up my truck with boxes of unopened junk that your grandma keeps buying. Then we're gonna sell it down at the flea market. Are you in? Sure, but won't she notice they're gone? She ain't figured it out yet. She's got so much dang stuff, she never misses a truckload of boxes. This way, I get back some of the money she spent on all this garbage. Before we packed Grandpa's truck and before I tied Leroy back up, I checked to see if the neighbor lady was still in the yard. The coast was clear. Leroy whimpered when I clipped on his chain, so I told him he could sleep with me that night on my bed. I gathered up my pencils and sketch pad. When I was back inside, I heard the bang of the screen door. Through the window, I spied the neighbor lady marching right up to Leroy. She unzipped her fanny pack and pulled out an enormous, meaty bone. He snatched it and thumped his tail. Okay, maybe she seemed nice enough, but it didn't mean she wasn't a weirdo. Out in the garage, we were met with stacks and stacks of unopened boxes. Together we carried the piles from the far corner and loaded them into Grandpa's old red pickup. He said those were the ones that had been there the longest. Then I helped him shove another stack into the area we'd just emptied. Those are for next time. Clearly, Grandpa Jack had a system. During the drive down to Las Cruces, Grandpa played country western music on his CD player, and he taught me the words. By the time we made it to the flea market, I'd learned 3 songs. I'm just a bug on the windshield of life. My head hurts, my feet stink, and I don't love you. I've been flushed from the bathroom of your heart. We pulled into Big Daddy's flea market just before noon. You could spot the place from way down the highway because there was a humongous statue of a guy with a black mustache holding up a Big Daddy sign. He was at least 30 feet tall and looked exactly like a giant younger version of Grandpa Jack. The flea market was jam-packed with people selling and buying all kinds of junk. Old toys, old tools, old clothes, and old VHS movies for 50 cents apiece. Most of these folks get here at sunrise, but not us. Florida stuff flies out of here in a jiffy since it's all brand spanking new. And boy, was he right. You would have thought we'd brought rare and ancient treasures the way people swarmed us. Grandpa zipped open boxes with a hunting knife, and I helped pull things out. People bargained for items even before I could set them on the table. We sold 1 fake fur vest, 2 sets of dishes, 3 hair dryers, 4 designer purses, 5 silver watches, and 6 sparkly cocktail rings before I gave up counting. By 3 o'clock, everything was gone. We made almost $2,000. So we celebrated and bought shredded beef tacos from Romero's taco truck. Then we headed back to Truth or Consequences. You're a dandy business partner, Sunshine. How about we make this a standing date? 2 Saturdays a month. Your grandma heads to the flower shop, and we conduct a little business. He rummaged in his pocket and pulled out a toothpick to dig leftover beef taco from his teeth. Okay, I liked the idea of spending time with Grandpa Jack. Oh, and let's just keep this whole business between you and me. That felt a little sneaky to me. It was almost a lie. What if Florida finds out? Grandpa snorted. I've been at this for 14 years. Twice a month, spring through summer. She ain't caught on yet. Wow, 14 years? I was -3 years old when he started selling off my grandmother's things. But it is Florida stuff. Are you sure it's okay that we sell it without telling her? Let me ask you this. Is it okay that she wastes my money on all this garbage? I guess not. It does seem a little flaky. Grandpa let out a long whistle. Flaky as a biscuit? That woman has a big old serious problem. Maybe Grandpa Jack was right about that. And she sure seemed to need a whole lot of shopping therapy to deal with it. Oh, and you deserve a little something for all your hard work. He pulled out a fat wad of cash, peeled off a $20 bill, and handed it to me. I thanked him and slipped the 20 into my pocket. But I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe what we did wasn't 100% right. Now, are you ready to learn another country western song? You bet. So we sang Queen of My Double-Wide Trailer all the way home. Huh. Well, what do you think? Is it okay? It's a little shaky. And clearly, Florida does have a problem buying so many things that they're stacked to the ceilings, not just in the house, but in the garage. And that for 14 years, she hasn't noticed that they're even gone. It seems like for Florida, the important thing is buying, not even having, just plain old buying. What do you think could make somebody feel that way, or want to do that, or feel good because they did do it? Or maybe they don't feel good at all. Maybe we'll find out what makes Florida tick. Let's see what happens next. Chapter 14. The second we pulled up to the house, Florida sashayed out of the front door in a fire engine red mini dress as if she were going to some super fancy dinner party. Welcome home, Jack! In her spiky high heels, she teetered into Grandpa's open arms. If it ain't my sweetie pie cupcake. Grandpa scooped her right off the ground. They seemed really happy to see each other. Inside the house, the dining room table was set with shiny silverware and gold-rimmed china. It was lit by candlelight, even though the sun hadn't gone down. Soft music played on the stereo, and the TV was off. Jack, darling, while I get busy in the kitchen, could you wash my car? Pretty please, with a bright red cherry on top. Will do, Cupcake. I followed Grandpa, and he got to work sponging the desert dust off Florida's Cadillac. How about you give me a hand, Sunshine? As we scoured the gold medal until it gleamed, I got to thinking. Grandpa, could I come live with you in Alamogordo? He stopped scrubbing, and his eyes got misty. Sunshine, Alamogordo's no place for you. My life's no place for you. Your old grandpa's up at the crack of dawn, fixing every broken down machine at the missile range. Sometimes I don't roll back in until the wee hours of the morning. Here's the truth, plain and simple, though you may not appreciate hearing it. Your mom had to grow up with Florida, and now you do too. I fought back tears as I wiped the windshield dry. Madison, Florida yelled from inside the house. I could use a little help in here. Pronto. Grandpa shrugged. Better go. I sighed. 7 more years of this until I could move away to college. I considered drawing a calendar and crossing off the days. I expected to see my grandmother in a whirlwind of food preparation, but her Arctic white kitchen was spotless. Let's get dinner on the table. She opened the oven, pulled out a foil-lined bag, and slid a meatloaf onto a serving dish. A little something I picked up at the deli counter at the Bullock's Sure Save. Your Grandpa Jack believes it's my home-cooked specialty. So, honey, let's not tell him it's store-bought. It'll be a little secret between us 2 girls. There sure seem to be a lot of secrets between these 2. I dropped the bag in the trash while Florida heated a container of mashed potatoes from the market. Then she microwaved frozen peas and dumped them in a bowl. By the time we carried the food into the dining room, Grandpa Jack was sitting at the table. Sunshine, your grandmother makes the finest meatloaf in the entire state of New Mexico. He helped himself to the fattest slice. Florida kissed the top of his head. You big old sweet-talking flatterer, Jack. It was just a little something I whipped up. I took a bite. I had to admit, the meatloaf from the market tasted delicious. Florida picked at her meal. So, Madison, what mischief did you and your grandpa get into today? What was I supposed to say? I shot a glance at Grandpa Jack, hoping he'd save me. He didn't skip a beat. We went out and about. You can't keep a child cooped up in this godforsaken town for long. A young girl needs to see the world. Grandpa taught me some funny songs, I volunteered. Did he now? How about singing one for me? Grandpa knows the most amusing songs. I sang a verse from Queen of My Double-Wide Trailer. So I made her the queen of my double-wide trailer with the polyester curtains and the redwood deck. Times she's running off and I've got to trail her. Dang her black heart and her pretty red neck. Florida's jaw clenched up. That's enough, young lady. Stop it this instant. So I did. Grandpa looked guilty. Your grandpa knows how I feel about that wretched song. He had no business teaching it to you. Maybe I should teach you a little ditty about a woman who never in this lifetime would move into her husband's teeny-tiny double-wide trailer way off in Nowheresville, Alamogordo. Wow. And I thought it was just a silly song. For Pete's sake, Florida, do you have to drag her into this? You taught her the song, Jack, not me. I don't care how many times you ask. I'm never moving in to that trailer with you. Florida stared at him with steely eyes. I'm not asking. I was all done asking years ago. I was only teaching her a song. He dropped his head in his hands like he had a headache. I don't believe you for a minute, Jack Brown, so don't you lie to me. I could see Grandpa was fed up. We're over and done with this conversation, Florida. I'm going to watch some TV. The baseball game is on. There's a special on the Beauty Channel tonight. I'm planning to watch, Florida said through her gritted teeth. Things between them were so tense, I thought I'd try to help out the situation. With Florida's new picture-in-a-picture TV, you can watch both of your shows at the same time, I told Grandpa, trying to sound as cheerful as possible. Grandpa's face turned beet red. For criminy sake, Florida, when did you go buy a new TV? Is that any way to spend my hard-earned money? For your information, it didn't cost a thing. Besides, it's my money too. I make some at the flower shop, and my daddy left me plenty when he died. I can spend it however I please, Mr. Jack Tightwad Brown. You make chicken feed arranging those flowers, and your daddy's money has been gone for over 8 years, Florida, Grandpa Jack yelled. And you burned it up in a big old bonfire of junk. I don't believe you, Jack. You're just saying that, and I don't have to listen because I'm leaving. Florida grabbed her purse and bolted for the door. Not before I do. Grandpa ran out ahead of her. I've had enough of this, he shouted. I'm going back to Alamo Gordo. Outside, he slammed the door of his pickup truck. His truck started up, then her Cadillac. They gunned them in opposite directions down the street. Grandpa Jack and Florida were the Duke and Duchess of bickering. My mom barely ever raised her voice. Maybe since she grew up watching my grandparents' fights, she figured there was a better way to be. I wish she'd been there to tell them to cut it out. I cleaned the kitchen and went into my room. There was a postcard of a French bakery on my bed. It was from Violet. Dear Madison, greetings from Paris. Today my grandma took me on a tour of a real French bakery. The chef taught us how to make apple tarts. I'm having the best time ever, but I miss you so much. Avec amour, that means with love in French. Violet. I missed Violet too, more than she could ever imagine. It didn't seem fair that she was in Paris with her perfect grandmother, and I was left all alone in some dusty, out of the middle of nowhere town, living with my totally imperfect grandmother. I peered through my bedroom window into the dusky yard. Leroy wasn't in his usual spot. Maybe the greasy-haired guy had brought him in for the night, since now he smelled more like chewing gum than like a dirty dog. I listened to crickets chirping in the backyard. A pack of coyotes howled in the distance. And me? I sat on my bed, all alone, with no one to talk to, and nothing to do. I kept thinking about Violet, her awesome summer in Paris, and my lonely new life in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Then I realized it was Saturday night, and I had the power to do something even more extraordinary than Violet. I went into the living room and turned on the Megapix 6000. I was going to zap myself into an episode of Just Jessica. Well, I certainly don't blame Madison for wanting to be somewhere else. And just when thought, couldn't get worse. You meet Grandpa Jack and he seems great. I thought he seemed great. And they had a good day together. But there was that awkwardness about secrets. Too many secrets to keep. That can make you feel all knotted up in your stomach, I think. It's tricky business, having to keep secrets and having, to tell something other than the truth. And then there's all the fighting. So, maybe zapping back into the TV might be just the cure. Or will it? Chapter 15. When I switched on the Megapix, the Just Jessica theme song was beginning and my heart got jumpy. I took a super deep breath, then pushed the purple button and the enter button at the same time. Ping! The purple question mark and those familiar words popped on the screen. Are you sure you want to choose this channel? If yes, push enter again. Was I sure? Absolutely, positively, 100% sure. I pushed enter. Ping! Everything blurred. Cold tingles rocketed through my body. When I opened my eyes, I was standing on the set of just Jessica. This was going to be way better than being cooped up at Florida's all by myself on a Saturday night. "Where have you been, Madison? They're waiting for you in makeup," a lady scurried over. She was super short and round, with hair so curly it looked as if she had miniature slinkies popping out all over her head. "The name's Martha. I'm your kid wrangler. My job is to stick with you. Your job is to listen to everything I say." She talked a mile a minute. "Glad you're here. I had a panicky moment when I thought you were a no-show." Wow. She'd been expecting me, just like the people on the shopping show. It was so confusing. Did the megapix send secret signals or a text message? Or was it my destiny to push those buttons, and this was supposed to be happening? I sure wished I knew how all this magic stuff worked. Martha took off. I had to run to keep up with her. If she were on rollerblades, I don't think she could have moved any faster. I slid the remote control safely inside my pocket. Everywhere I looked, people were setting up lights, pulling long cables, and rolling cameras on dollies. I chased behind Martha, keeping an eagle-eye lookout for the show's stars, Carly Knight and Jamal Jackson, the boy who played Curtis. They were nowhere in sight. In the makeup room, Martha sat me down on a high swivel chair. A lady with a bunch of ear piercings aimed a silvery metal pen contraption at my face. "Makeup time. Close your eyes. Don't breathe," she said. I gulped air and shut my eyes. Then came a hissing sound and the cold sting of stinky goop airbrushed on my face. This was way weirder than what they'd done on the shopping show. Between holding my breath and the wet cloud of makeup tingling my nostrils, my lungs were ready to explode. "Okay, breathe." Not a second too soon. I exhaled hard and opened my eyes. I didn't look like me anymore. I looked as fake as a porcelain doll. "Don't worry. Looks ridiculous in person, but on camera, you'll look great," said Martha. We headed for the wardrobe department where a lady named Shannon handed me purple leggings and a flowery turquoise sweatshirt. The first thing I noticed was the kangaroo pocket in the sweatshirt. Score! It was the perfect size to hide my remote control. Not that I wanted to zap out of there anytime soon, but I definitely didn't want to lose track of that remote again. 30 minutes before you're needed on set. Do you want to look over your script, or do you have everything memorized? Memorized? I didn't even know who in the heck I was supposed to be in this show. It wouldn't hurt to take a look, I said. She handed me a script, and I settled into a big comfy chair in the corner of the room and began to read. The script was called Suite 14. Across every page in faded gray print, it said Madison McGee. They'd printed this script just for me. It was the strangest thing ever to know that they'd been expecting me all along. On the very first page was a list of the characters. Next to my name, it said Sophie, Ashley's young, bratty cousin. Ashley, the nastiest character on the show. Great. I read as fast as I could. In the script, Ashley was throwing a fancy 14th birthday party and didn't want to invite Jessica and her best friend Curtis. But Sophie was a huge fan and threatened to blackmail Ashley if she didn't invite them. Ashley finally gave in, but just to be mean, she told Jessica and Curtis that it was a crazy pajama party. On the day of the party, Jessica and Curtis showed up wearing their PJs. Near the end of the script, Ashley tripped on her super spiky high heels and knocked Sophie into the swimming pool. Because Sophie couldn't swim, Jessica and the boy at the party she had a crush on saved her. In the end, the boy asked Jessica out on a date, but she couldn't go because she had to shoot a movie. Here's the first thing I thought. I was really glad I knew how to swim. The second thing, I would be going to a party with the entire cast of just Jessica, and Carly Knight would be saving me from fake drowning in a swimming pool. I was pretty sure this would be the best day of my life. I read my lines twice more. I don't know if it was the magic or my memory, but I knew every single word I was supposed to say. When it was time to shoot my first scene, Martha and I snaked through a maze of gigantic buildings, each one as big as a Walmart. I was worried about meeting Allison Hunter, who played Ashley. In a matter of seconds, I was going to be face to face with the worst mean girl ever. Martha stopped in front of a heavy gray door and yanked it open. A sign on the building said, Sound Stage 4. Here goes nothing, I thought. Well, this is exciting. Certainly does beat staying at home at Florida's all by herself on a Saturday night. Let's see what happens.
Well, Madison and Florida are sure having a rough time, aren't they? Thank goodness Madison has Leroy. You know, kids often ask me how I come up with stories, and I'm actually often inspired by real life situations. For instance, this story is partly based on a true story, believe it or not. I have a friend who has a daughter whose name is Madison, and when she was 9, she went to go spend a summer with her grandmother in a tiny little town in West Texas. And Maddie, like my character Madison, is a real outdoorsy girl, and so she wanted to go outside and have a fun summer. Well, her grandma loved to watch television and really loved the shopping shows. And she told Maddie to go play in the backyard, and that would have been fine, except there were no fences and there was this vicious pit bull that wandered through everyone's backyard. So when I heard that story, I thought, you know, that is probably the worst summer ever, because Maddie had to wind up watching her grandma watch a lot of TV. And that's the true story. That's, you know, you'll see where Madison came from, you see where Florida came from, and you see where Leroy, the dog, came from. And then my imagination kicked in, because I thought if I had been in Maddie's situation, I'd want to pick up the remote control, get the heck out of Dodge, and go on an adventure. And so, you know that chapter Miss Josephine just read where Florida wants to buy girly girl dresses? Well, okay, so something like that happened to me. Again, I pulled from a real situation, which was my own story. I was a little older than Madison, and my dad wanted to take me shopping for fancy clothes. Well, I've always been a jeans girl, and I really needed a new pair of jeans. And I told him that. I said I really didn't need all those fancy clothes, and he wanted to buy them anyway. So we're, you know, picture this, we're in a crowded department store, and the sales lady kept bringing me in lots and lots of fancy clothes. And she was excited because she got paid on a commission, which meant the more she sold, the more money she made. And I finally got the courage up to say to my dad, look, Dad, I'm not going to wear any of these clothes. All I need is a pair of jeans. So please don't waste your money. Well, I was in a crowded department store, and he yelled at me, and of course everyone heard, and he made me apologize to the sales lady. Well, you know that moment where you just wish the floor would open up and it would swallow you whole, right? We've all been there. We all know, fortunately, that goes away. That feeling doesn't last forever. I look back at that and I say, that was awesome. I'm so glad that happened, because it gave me this great story to tell. You know, we are all story collectors. You are a story collector. And we've all had things that are embarrassing that have happened to us. And we've all had things that are exciting and sad, you know, that are joyful, that are scary. And those are all things that we can write about now or in 10 years. And that's really cool. We're collecting stories all the time. Okay, so now back to this story and Miss Josephine, and I think we just left off at the part where Madison is about to give that stinky Leroy a bath.